Imagine stepping into a world where technical proficiency is no longer a given, even among college graduates. For many retired engineers, witnessing this decline firsthand is both sobering and alarming. In fields like automation engineering, where precision and logic are essential, the inability of new hires to perform basic reading or mathematics is not just disappointing, it's dangerous. This scene sets the stage for our exploration, drawing a parallel to Kurt Vonnegut's Harrison Bergeron, where enforced equality drags everyone down to the lowest common denominator. Today, we're not using physical handicaps, but systemic educational shifts are creating a similar effect, leaving many to wonder, how close are we to that dystopian world? Let's dive deeper into the Bergeron parallel. In Vonnegut's story, equality is achieved by handicapping the talented, ensuring no one excels. Today, we see echoes of this in education systems that sometimes prioritize equitable outcomes over equal opportunity. Advanced math tracks are removed, grading standards are lowered, and high achievers are effectively handicapped to ensure no one feels left behind. This isn't just a theoretical concern, it's a reality many employers face when new graduates lack fundamental skills. The result? A workforce less prepared for the demands of modern engineering and technology. Another factor at play is cognitive offloading. We become increasingly reliant on technology to remember, calculate, and even think for us. Search engines store our knowledge, calculators handle our math, and algorithms guide our decisions. Just like the characters in Harrison Bergeron who can't think deeply due to constant interruptions, our attention spans are eroded by digital noise. This shift means fewer people develop the deep intuitive understanding needed to solve complex problems, especially in fields that demand precision and logic. Skills gap is no longer just a buzzword, it's a daily reality for employers. Even sourcing talent globally has become a challenge, as the foundational skills of mental math, reading comprehension, and first principles thinking are increasingly bypassed in favor of learning specific software tools. This global shift means that even international candidates may lack the core competencies once considered basic. The result is a workforce that can operate tools but struggles to understand the underlying systems. Artificial intelligence offers both promise and peril. On one hand, AI can act as the ultimate senior engineer, checking logic, catching errors, and filling gaps left by a struggling workforce. It can automate rote tasks, freeing up the few remaining experts to focus on high-level architecture. But there's a catch. If new hires already struggle with basics, relying on AI may prevent them from ever developing the intuition needed for troubleshooting. The black box problem emerges. If you can't do the math yourself, how do you know if the AI's output is correct or dangerously flawed? Automation engineering, the stakes are high. A miscalculation in torque or timing can lead to catastrophic failures. As the talent pool dilutes, AI may become the only way to maintain safety standards. Yet this reliance risks making the mental handicaps of the next generation permanent. The irony is clear. The very automation built to sustain infrastructure may now be the only thing keeping it afloat as human technical literacy declines. Recent industry data highlights the growing gap between employer expectations and graduate abilities. Reports from universities and industry surveys reveal troubling trends. Writing and math skills among undergraduates are declining, and the amount of material covered in engineering courses has decreased over the past 25 years. Employers consistently express concerns about the preparation of new engineering graduates, and the shift toward high-tech subjects has led to a decline in practical, hands-on training. 1990s marked a pivotal turning point for the U.S. engineering workforce. During this era, vocational and technical training programs, such as those offered by the VRY and the military, were often seen as producing more ready-to-work candidates than traditional universities. As military contracts shrank, thousands of jobs were lost, and the engineering talent pipeline became increasingly inefficient. Only a small percentage of college students declared engineering majors, and even fewer graduated. Traditional engineering education has long been criticized for its weed-out mentality. Exams and projects are designed to make students fail, emphasizing rigor as a barrier rather than as preparation for practical careers. While this approach was intended to ensure only the most capable advanced, it often discouraged potential talent and contributed to the inefficiency of the engineering pipeline. Inefficiency of the engineering talent pipeline is striking. Only 11% of college students declare an engineering major, and about half of those actually graduate in the field. This leaky pipeline means that the domestic production of engineers is far below what's needed to meet industry demand, further widening the skills gap and increasing reliance on international talent. Over the past 30 years, the gap between what employers expect and what graduates can deliver has only grown. Employers report that many entry-level applicants lack essential skills in mathematics, writing, and oral communication. Faculty data shows a decline in both the amount of material covered in class and student performance levels. As curricula shift toward high-tech subjects, practical infrastructure and environmental topics are often left behind. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI initiatives are a central point of debate in engineering today. Critics argue that focusing on equitable outcomes over merit-based standards lowers expectations and dilutes competency. On the other hand, supporters believe DEI is necessary to expand the workforce and meet rising demand. Research shows that inclusive cultures improve employee retention, but the debate over merit versus equity continues to shape the industry. Beyond technical skills, there's a recognized gap in professional skills, the so-called soft skills. Only a minority of faculty believe they play a role in developing students' personal values or moral character, yet these attributes are seen as prerequisites for professional development. The result is a workforce that may be technically trained but lacks the communication, teamwork, and ethical grounding needed for long-term success. U.S. engineering sector is heavily reliant on international talent. In 2020, 60% of new graduate students in math and computer science and half of all engineering students were international. Advanced degrees are even more skewed, with nearly half of master and over half of doctoral degrees in STEM fields awarded to foreign students. However, only a fraction of these graduates remain in the U.S. after completing their study. May have experienced Price's law firsthand. A small fraction of the workforce does the majority of the work. As this ratio skews further, the burden on high performers grows. The fire water bucket brigade becomes a metaphor for the inefficiency. High performers are not just engineers, but also unpaid trainers and liability mitigators for the rest. This dynamic pushes many to leave corporate roles and become independent contractors. The bucket brigade economy: 10% of staff do 90% of the work. High performers become unpaid trainers and liability mitigators, subsidizing the rest of the workforce. This system incentivizes top talent to leave and sell their expertise directly to the market, escaping the incompetence tax imposed by large organizations focused on headcount and metrics over raw competency. This exodus of talent has led to a brain drain in critical infrastructure sectors. The experts who truly understand how systems work have left, leaving behind a shell of project managers and administrators. These remaining staff may be able to pass the bucket, but they lack the deep knowledge needed to solve real problems when crises arise. For independent contractors and high performers, AI is the ultimate force multiplier. It can handle administrative and documentation tasks, making the bucket passers even more obsolete. For those with deep expertise, AI is a powerful tool. For the unskilled, it's a dangerous hallucination generator that can widen the gap between true experts and butt pushers. Ironically, companies that prioritized headcount and HR metrics over competency ended up losing their most valuable assets. Many were forced to hire back former employees as contractors at much higher rates, simply because they could no longer function without their expertise. This cycle highlights the dangers of valuing quantity over quality in technical fields. Modern culture often seeks shortcuts, but in engineering there are no substitutes for rigorous trial and error. Only through repeated struggle and failure do engineers develop the intuition needed to spot anomalies and prevent disasters. The current generation, accustomed to instant answers from digital tools, may never build the biological hardware required for true expertise. A major crisis facing the current generation is the breakdown of the feedback loop. With tools that provide instant answers, many never develop the mental pathways needed to verify or interpret those answers. Without the scars of past failures, the solutions provided by AI or senior engineers are just noise, not knowledge. Understanding the depth of a problem is essential. If you don't grasp the physics or underlying principles, you can't ask intelligent questions or recognize flawed answers. For example, asking AI to write code for a control system without understanding calculus or system lag can lead to catastrophic results. True expertise requires a mental library of past failures and successes. By removing rigor and trials from education in the name of equity, we risk lobotomizing the analytical capabilities of graduates. They are being sent into complex environments with insufficient preparation, much like being sent to a knife fight with a plastic spoon. The result is a generation ill-equipped to handle real-world challenges. In previous generations, engineers were often responsible for every aspect of a project, from design and fabrication to programming and repair. This full-stack exposure created professionals who could see the entire system and anticipate problems before they arose. Today's workforce is highly fragmented, with most only trained to perform narrow tasks. As experienced engineers left for independent contracting, they took their knowledge with them. Corporations were left with manuals they could no longer interpret, and a workforce unable to bridge the gap. This knowledge monopoly means that critical expertise is now concentrated among a shrinking group of specialists. Without a strong foundation in the basics, AI becomes a crutch rather than a tool. If users lack the ability to ask the right questions or interpret results, AI will simply enable them to pass the digital bucket without understanding the fire they're supposed to fight. This dependency can be catastrophic in high-stakes environments. The traditional expert-apprentice model is breaking down. Mentorship requires humility and a willingness to learn, but many new hires are more interested in defending their uniqueness than absorbing knowledge. This attitude makes it nearly impossible for seasoned professionals to pass on their expertise, further widening the skills gap. Troubling trend is the rise of subjectivity over factual knowledge. When new graduates argue opinion against established theory, they attempt to democratize reality. In technical fields, this isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. The shift from facts to feelings undermines the very foundation of engineering and science. Without the heavy lifting of complex problem-solving, mental muscles atrophy. Many new graduates, raised in environments that prioritize validation over rigor, lack the resilience and strength needed for real-world engineering. This muscle weakness is not just metaphorical, it has real consequences for safety and innovation. A functioning feedback loop is essential for growth. In the past, apprentices acknowledged their ignorance and learned from experts. Today, the loop is broken. New hires defend their opinions instead of absorbing knowledge. This breakdown prevents the transfer of critical skills and perpetuates incompetence. Without a return to rigor and mastery, failure is inevitable. We have built a highly complex, automated civilization that requires skilled Harrisons to keep it running. Yet, we are producing a workforce of bucket passers who believe the bucket moves by magic. When the last of the old guard retires, the system will face a reckoning. Transition from military to civilian engineering roles has highlighted these trends. In both environments, the decline in rigor and the rise of validation over mastery have been evident. The few who still value hard work and expertise often find themselves isolated, carrying the weight of entire teams or organizations. Is there a way back to a merit-based system? Some believe only a complete breakdown will force a return to rigor and mastery. Others hope for incremental change, but the cultural shift toward validation and self-expression over factual knowledge remains a significant barrier. The future of engineering may depend on how this question is answered. International candidates often come from more traditional educational systems that still emphasize rigor and mastery. However, even this advantage is eroding as global trends shift toward validation and shortcuts. The question remains, will international talent maintain the mental muscles needed for true engineering, or will they too succumb to the shortcut culture? Despite the prevailing trends, there are always exceptions, young people who are willing to suffer for the sake of mastery. These individuals seek out challenges, embrace failure, and build the mental strength needed for true expertise. They are rare, but they offer hope that the tradition of rigorous engineering can survive. Generation raised on validation and coddling often lacks the mental strength needed for real growth. In both the Navy and civilian sectors, many new graduates were told how special and unique they were, but their muscles were non-existent. When challenged, they responded with opinions rather than a desire to learn, undermining the expert-prentice relationship. Shift from factual knowledge to personal opinions and feelings is a dangerous trend in technical fields. When new hires argue their perspective against established theory, they fail to recognize the importance of objective reality. In engineering, opinions don't keep bridges standing, only the application of hard facts does. When education prioritizes self-expression over mastery, it creates a generation that sees technical correction as a personal attack. This mindset prevents the development of true expertise and makes it difficult for organizations to maintain high standards. The loss of the expert-apprentice model is a significant blow to the future of engineering. Subjectivity trap is real. When graduates believe their perspective is as valid as decades of experience, they undermine safety and progress. In laboratories and on factory floors, this attitude is not just annoying, it's dangerous. The shift from facts to feelings is a threat to the integrity of technical professions. Just as physical muscles grow through resistance, mental muscles develop through struggle and failure. Without lifting the heavy weights of complex calculus, troubleshooting, and repeated setbacks, graduates remain mental children. Real growth requires hard, persistent effort, something that can't be replaced by validation or shortcuts. Mentorship is a two-way street. The apprentice must acknowledge their ignorance to absorb knowledge from the expert. When new hires are too busy defending their uniqueness, they miss out on the invaluable lessons that only experience can provide. This humility is essential for the transfer of expertise. As the old guard retires and the last of the true experts leave, the system will face a reckoning. Without a foundation of rigor and mastery, the complex infrastructure of modern society is at risk. AI may step in, but without skilled humans to guide it, even the most advanced tools will be ineffective. Looking ahead, AI will play an increasingly important role in engineering and automation. However, its effectiveness will depend on the quality of human input and oversight. Without a new generation of skilled, rigorous professionals, AI risks becoming just another tool for passing the digital bucket rather than a force for progress. Despite the challenges, there is hope. By recognizing the value of rigor, mastery, and humility, we can begin to rebuild the foundations of technical education and professional development. The future depends on our willingness to embrace hard work, learn from failure, and prioritize facts over feelings. As we reflect on the lessons from Harrison Bergeron and the current state of engineering, it's clear that the path forward requires a renewed commitment to excellence. Whether you're an educator, employer, or aspiring engineer, the message is the same: embrace the struggle, seek mastery, and never settle for shortcuts. The future of our automated world depends on it.